Thank you all for being here. I'm very excited for this webinar. This is us. I will first take you into the topic of employee engagement. Then Jasper will talk to you about ideation. And finally, Tudor will tell you a little bit more about business acceleration today. So first, employee engagement. The question we got during our presence at the HYPE conference in Bonn is how do I get more engagement on our innovation platform? And you're actually not the only one to struggle with this. Lots of our clients have the same question. And I think a lot of companies in general have this question. We would like you to remember that your innovation platform is a means for innovation. So engagement on the platform should not be a goal in itself. We believe the question is, how do I get my employees more engaged in innovation? Because if employees' engagement grows, involvement on the platform should automatically grow with it. As long as your employees are not engaged with your organization's mission, vision, strategy, and goals, they will not feel the urge to be on the platform because they don't know why. So employee engagement is important for innovation, but let's take one step back. What is employee engagement? It's a very hot topic at the moment, and there are lots of people writing about it and having their opinions about it. But for the sake of our webinar today, I would like to have like one definition. And I would say that innovation is like a workplace approach designed to ensure that employees are committed to their organization's goals and values, that they are motivated to contribute to organizational success, and are able at the same time to enhance their own sense of well-being. So as you can see, employee engagement is relevant for many things. Let me point out a few that I find very interesting. Once employee engagement rises, turnover becomes very low because people actually like working for your company. Also, what you will see is that customer satisfaction will grow as well as your productivity and profitability. When we talk about engagement for innovation specifically, it's also very much important. Because engaged employees are the ones that will most likely come up with new ideas. They are the ones that build new products, new services, and therefore will reach new customers. Basic line is that engaged employees will make sure that you have more growth and more revenue. So this is the model that I would like to use when I try to make employee engagement more practical. As you see, there are many things you can do, but you can see at the bottom it says focus on simplicity. So let's make it a little bit more simple for you. There are really 5 main building blocks, as you can see, and the first is meaningful work. We need to make sure that jobs are meaningful, that people have the tools and the autonomy to succeed, and that the right people are at the right job. Also, time for slack is really important because when you have too much work on your plate, you're not able to step back a little bit and see the bigger picture and be creative. So if you have too much work, creativity will be killed. Next building block is hands-on management. And we use the word management here, not leadership, to refer to the daily, the weekly and monthly activities that managers use to guide, support, and align their people. So one of the main things here is to have very clear and transparent goals, because if you want people to be aligned, they need to know what to align with. Also, you need to be able to really invest in management development because managers are the ones that translate your goal and your vision to real activities. Then we have the positive work environment, which is probably the one you know us best for, because for Cho we do a lot in this area. This is really about creating a flexible, humanistic workplace where you have recognition for people's achievements and for the behavior they have. Fourth building block is growth opportunity. It's very important that people feel that they have the opportunity to learn and really develop themselves professionally. Because let's face it, we often go to work with self-interest. If you do not feel that you can really grow in your role in your company, you will probably look for it elsewhere. Last one is trust and leadership. This is a very important one as well, as research suggests that leadership practices most directly impact employee engagement. So you should be assured that the mission and purpose is clear to people, and that you're very transparent and honest in what the purpose is. Also be sure to really invest in people. So as this is a practitioner's guide, I would like to give you 3 examples of ways we have applied these strategies, the use cases that we have done at different clients. All of these 3 examples, we use our hybrid approach, which is that we first measure, and of course we all know the very boring employee engagement surveys. We have a little bit of a different approach to this, but I will get back to that later. First we measure, and from this data we find what will trigger engagement even more in this particular case. And then we create interventions to improve engagement. So first business case was at the international insurance company. The biggest challenge they had was to increase the innovation efforts of employees throughout the entire organization. So they had already some ideas coming in on their platform from innovation department and marketing department, but they really wanted more effort and they wanted the whole company to be represented. So what they already had in place was their platform, the process was very clear, people knew how to get their idea going and what to do to get it further down the process, but still no real traction was created. So what we did to help them is that we first obviously did the scan to see what was going wrong. And we saw that management was not really allowing for people to take time to innovate. And after some in-depth interviews, we noticed that they didn't really know why innovation was important and why it should be one of the priorities of their employees. So what we did is we trained the managers. We trained them for innovation. And first we went back to basic. So what is innovation and why do we need it? And it's not just innovating for the sake of innovation, but we have a vision where we want to go and we need innovation in order to get there. Then we went to how do you actually lead or manage for innovation? And we really focused on 3 topics that I already briefly touched upon earlier. Allow people time for slacking, because if you're in over your head, you're not being creative. Then set clear, transparent, and simple goals so people can align with those goals, they know where to work for, and we know where we're heading to. Last but not least is to be tolerant to failures, because it's a given that when you innovate, you're going to fail. And you want to create an environment where people feel they are able to fail, they won't lose face, they can experiment a little bit. So as you can see, this was one of the workshops we did. We used the method of LEGO Serious Play, one we are quite famous for actually, to really go back to the basics of innovation and why it is important. The results we got was a greater sense of urgency. Managers now understood why we have to innovate and why it should be on the list of priorities. We actually saw an increase of ideas coming up from different places in the organization, and innovation efforts went up, which was the challenge in the first place, so mission accomplished. Then the next use case is about creating a positive work environment. And we did this at the Mexican Trading Institution, who had a challenge that they were growing very fast, which seems like a luxury problem. But the thing was that they were having trouble with keeping their employees engaged, because they were getting more layers, it was a little bit more bigger, more rules. So this was one of their main struggles. So we did actually a couple of things to improve this for them. First of all, we had multiple social events where people who were interested in innovation, already active in innovation, were invited. Because there were so many people from different places in the organization, it was very nice to get to know each other a little bit better in a different way. And there were also rewards given for people who had extraordinary things done in innovation, so really culture of recognition as well. Then we had intervention in the physical environment. So we really opened up the office space so that the physical environment could help with their goals, which was a more open and collaborative culture. And then last we had a coffee with the CEO, which was a weekly moment that the CEO would be in his office, have time for the employees to really just grab a cup of coffee and talk about things. These are pictures of one of the events. Obviously, we use stickers also for the physical intervention to really make it easy for people to pimp their own environment and be a little bit provocative. And what we saw is that because we had recognition and rewards for people active in innovation, we actually saw an increase in innovation activities, which was a nice side effect. We had also better overall atmosphere, and because people were meeting from different departments, we saw that people from different functions really got together and had own ideas, innovative ideas, and there was more cross-functionality. Last use case is about a Dutch facility management firm, and their challenge was to align employees throughout the entire organization to their vision. And as you can imagine, they had very diverse employee groups because they have like cleaners, they have all these kind of groups of people, and they all need to be aligned with the vision. Well, they used the same strategy they had done earlier, just communicating about the vision, but they didn't feel that this was really working out for them. So what we did was we organized sessions with different employee groups and groups from all over the organization. So really session with the cleaning people, session with marketing and communication, all different groups you had these sessions with. And what we did is we really asked the people, okay, this is the vision that we have in mind. These are keywords that we want to use. We haven't communicated them to the outside world yet, so they're still open for discussion. What is your feeling with these words? Do you feel like they apply to your daily job? Do you feel like it has meaning to you? Do you feel like it's really relevant for us at all to talk about these issues? Engaging people and creating vision and intelligence. And one of the results we saw is that, well, the most beautiful, I think, is that there was actually a change in the vision because we found out that people didn't really have a connection with the words at all. So with their input, we changed the vision. Then we saw that people were really taking ownership of that new vision because they felt they had input, they had something to say. This was really part of them as well. Taking ownership is very, very important because it makes them kind of advocates for the vision, and they will spread it to the rest of the organization. After the sessions, people came up to us and said they felt very heard and very much appreciated the chance they had to discuss these topics with us. So it was very nice as well. So these were, given the time, I only have like three things to show you, unfortunately. The big implementation question is, so what do you do now if you want to go and do this for yourself? In our opinion, is to, first of all, develop really a complete understanding of, okay, how does this strategy work? What, is it relevant for my organization? Because there is no one-size-fits-all. Really look at the different strategies that we saw in the model and understand how they interrelate with each other. Then measure, and not just an annual survey, but really try to measure regularly and unbiased, and then engage and let people know that you are really acting upon the feedback, because that doesn't happen all the time and people get very demotivated from that. One way we use to obtain continuous feedback is our Cho-like system. This is just a very easy way to measure people's opinions and thoughts. It's actually a real machine, so you can put it anywhere where it's convenient for you. And you can ask all kinds of questions. You get real-time feedback in a very nice backend, and you can act upon it immediately. And then I have to finish up, I'm afraid, but we have one last thing we would like to offer to you. You can get a report about engagement and innovation. All you have to do is participate in this survey and we send it to you. I think we're going to send an email to you afterwards, so we'll invite you. That's it for me.
All right, I'll just switch over to Jasper now.
Yes. So welcome everybody, and that I will continue on the story from Anne. And I would like to highlight a couple of the things that we do, to how we use engagement to accelerate also our own innovation process. And for those who just tuned in, so XR Family is a group I co-founded with two of my friends. Tudor is one of the next ones. And so we do innovation services for clients, and we do also our own innovation work. So we launch our own incubator accelerators, our own startups. So we eat our own dog food. So what I'd like to show you, so we also do ourselves. So when I go to innovation conference, I hear a lot of like the depth of the front end of innovation. So it's not important how many ideas there are. It's much more about execution. Partly agree with that, because execution is key nowadays. But I believe that also a lot of the ideas, what we see happening right now, are a bit middle of the road. And I would just like to add a couple of the cases that we do, and next probably to several of the tools that you use, whether it's a method of TRIZ or SIT or fourth innovation method or the thinking heads from the Bono. I would like to add a couple of elements that we have added to our own ideation processes and what we offer to our clients. And so to make it, well, hopefully also like relevant for those who are in the ID management part. And the three tips or the three things that we do for ourselves, I would like to summarize in go to the edge, one side, second is provoking, and third is more the prototyping. So let's get into the first one, going to the edge. So if you would check out the trends, whether they have been given to you via your subscription of Trend One from via the Hype platform or whatever you can find on the web or via other parties, there are a lot of trends in the market. And these, for example, are from the World Economic Forum, so the biggest trends in the world, like increasing water stress or intensifying nationalism. But actually there are many more, and a lot of people use models like the PEST analysis or PESTLE, and to identify the things that are happening in the market. For example, if you look at demographics or economical point of view, of course you see a lot of urbanization, increase of urban population, or for example new jobs in the world. The same you could apply as well to technology. So we see the changes in behavior, at least of several people, by for example the texting while driving, but also for example in Japan launching hotels run by robots, or all the market of IoT. And last but not least, you see on the social side and partly also the economical side, changes in people, where it's like what we see from people, how they value brands, or the movement from economic models from ownership to membership, do-it-yourself, and many more of those. So a lot of them probably you will recognize, and hopefully you get an ideas, whether you're working for a technological production facility or for a consultancy, that your employees come up with these ideas, because those are based on trends, what you just see and read in the newspaper, or what you see and read on the web. So as such, it's no rocket science to state that finding an idea requires to understand what is really happening in society and apply your concept or new technology to that. And I guess that's whether it's Uber, which it's an old concept as such, the app of Uber, but it's, by the new technology it gets a new life, and now we call it innovation. But to be honest, Uber has been developed like 20 times before in the last 10 years at least, but for some reason was not successful. So applying trends to your idea can make a difference whether there will be an innovation, yes or no. So the thing that I would really like just to stress or to add is the weak signals. So if you want to understand what is happening and also what your next idea could be, it could be very relevant for the awesome ideas, really like that will strike the world, to focus more on like what's really emerging or what's even less stronger, but what will be the future. And so that's always the concept what I like. Are you focusing on like the concepts or the ideas that your consultants give to you, or the concept ideas that you can find on the street and where the real people are busy with? So going to the edge. And I'm a big fan of that. We as Excel family are big fans of that, to understand like, so where are the real ideas happening and where can we really understand that? So I push my team out, I go out myself, just to the places where the underground meets the upper ground. I'm not talking about Lord of the Rings or any kind of other like fantasy stories, really about the street level. So where can we see where new developments arise? What can we learn from this? To put it into practice, for example, one of the first commercial applications of drones was done by drug dealers. So they changed drug traffickers by drones, and that was at least an idea and inspiration for Amazon to see like, hey, we can do much more with drones than just playing around with that. And there are many markets. Sex market is also a very interesting market, what's happening over there, and also street level. Just to give you an example, so what we see on the street, for example, is people want to focus on secrets nowadays. In terms of transparency, that's where the world is heading to. But you see the next ideas appearing, which are in very high demand, and for some reason will be trending now, between now and half a year. It's about secrecy. Secrecy, surprises, and so I can imagine that a lot of companies are willing to focus on that, saying, hey, can we create, from the trends we see over here, can we really create cool and awesome ideas that really have these things together? To give you a couple of examples, the whole Bitcoin market, for example, everything you do in there right now is still so pretty amazing, because you only see the birth of a new financial model, and new financial services, and maybe some new infrastructure, new payment processing, but it's just the beginning. In the travel industry, you see a lot of new elements happening. Where it surprised me, that's really as a site trying to counter Airbnb-like initiatives, and it's all about surprises. And for Booking.com, the largest user of Google, the one who pays for the most advertisements, they have only special deals nowadays for clients. So they want to do something with specialty and surprises. So I like that a lot. So going to the edge, understanding what's on the street and trying to apply this to your own ideas. So just think about it for yourself. So what's happening on the street, and can I apply this to my truck, or can I apply this to my idea? A connected one to that, when you've gone to the edge, you want to provoke yourself. And I'm a big fan of provocation as such. So provocation is something is not meant to harm people, to disrespect people. It's more to really make them think about what's happening in society, and to really to get active on that. Because I believe so. Without radical ideas, all the ideas look the same. So imagine this list of ideas. So you're an ID manager, innovation manager at a large company. So you have a bunch of ideas gone perfectly well through the system. All ideas from employees, and everybody's happy with that. So based upon this list, you probably can make a division between normal ideas, incremental, and maybe some crazy ideas. And crazy could be radical, disruptive, whatever you name it within your own company. And now just go on thought-provoking. So ideas that challenge at least the status quo. You want to have at least a couple of those ideas in your system. The reason is why. For me, it's really important so to see how we can get more of those ideas, which are thought-provoking, think about the ideas themselves. What we have is that the more engaged people are, the more they are open for thought. So the more people are in the process together with you, whether in the flow or whether we know the triggers for their, how to get them engaged, the more willing they are to expand their horizon, to expand their thinking. And so we use tools and techniques like having fun, people cheering to get them more engaged, like clap for the best idea. So we use things on our own walls, and this is Skype, by the way, this is not our own office, but it's Skype. So we invite them, so if you really have an idea, just put them on there, write them on the wall. So we use stickers, like Anna mentioned before, for people to engage them. There was a famous example from Swift that we provided for them. Hug Me, I'm a Swiftie. It's a very conservative company, and we gave them like room to think about, to really get up and personal. And the funny thing is, like, all these things, whether these companies are Swift or any other company, so beforehand they had these kind of ideas as the most radical ones. And for like by getting them engaged, we're really pushing them to provoke themselves a bit, to do it a bit differently, to think about it differently. The spectrum of ideas and of their awesomeness has expanded. And so everything you see now in the black dots, to me, all of those are now regular IDs. So easy to do. There's no issue of executing those ones. Only the red ones might be too radical to have those, to execute them, but at least everything else now looks normal. So here only a couple of them look normal. Now a lot of them look normal, like, oh my god. So with some radical ideas you can then create a spectrum of new ideas which are easier to execute, at least in the mindset. At least it creates, like I said before, it creates people to think out loud and to really start thinking outside of the box without having to use those cliches. So to make them feel provoking, so you have to get them to feel free and engaged. And you also have to let challenge their basic needs, to search for tension and dilemmas. Just like to highlight a couple of them. This, for example, for those who remember that, the winners from the failure night from the last Hype conference, as a means to an end, to invite people to think out loud. Second is for them to challenge them on the basic needs and desires that they might have. To challenge them, so what are the basic needs? Whether it's Maslow or any other kind of basic needs that people have nowadays, of course, is Wi-Fi or batteries. So how to challenge them when they have ideas. So, and people, in case people say, I want to have a new refrigerator, okay, do something without electricity. Invent something without electricity, without one of the basic needs that people have nowadays. Then people will be thought-provoked and say, okay, I really need to think about this. As how to create this tension in that. So we focus on a lot of these kind of like tensions in the market, whether it's online or offline, real-time or right-time, or for example, collected or connected. We see these are big tensions, what's happening in the market right now and what will be happening. So we try to focus on these two elements. So I would like to go to the last item. So you've gone to the edge, you provoke your team while feeling engaged, and then you want to prototype some things. So what we see, this is the Innovator's DNA, famous book on innovation. So it's like they're experimenting, they're taking risks of doing things. So what we tend to do with our own internal innovation processes, so when we have gone through the edge, seeing what's out in the market, and we have provoked ourselves, but if you would reverse it, what would happen? So we're really trying to also to realize one of the prototypes. Basically we do this a lot on the challenges that are in the market, in dilemma, create multiple scenarios. So okay, maybe this could happen, maybe that could happen. We try to visualize this with our own designers and developers. Technically, we apply all the techniques known in startup and all the radical innovation work. So whether it's agility or whether it's a reverse ideation, scenario planning, we apply those all to our market. And based upon that, I would just like to give you a use case, a simple use case. So we saw from our trend analysis from big time that there are a lot of smartphones nowadays in the market. and there's a lot of work on that to be dealt with. And we see people apping and texting and all the time, all the things, all the time. So what we saw, so it's the big rise of social media. Everybody's using social media all the time, everywhere. So we thought to ourselves, so if we do this and we have basic needs of, for example, getting somewhere, so what if it's not possible? So we came upon we organized our own internal boot camps, and we started thinking about, so what are the negative impacts of all this internet and all this connectivity and mobility? So we started to create new ideas for ourselves for how would it be if we could create safe environments, in the end filling our basic needs. What can we do with that? So Tudor will go on and continue with the case of SafeDrive, but for me, for now, to end this, so when you want to create awesome ideas, go out to the edge, create competition in teams, boot camping, visualizing, prototyping for yourself to do so. So that's my conclusion. Awesomeness gets accelerating by these 3 things. Tudor, over to you.
So, thank you for the introduction, Jasper. I'll walk you through about how to accelerate and how to get from the ideation part towards actually realizing it, but also in a, let's say, safe environment with minimal costs. And for that, we'll through the so-called business sprints or validation part of our innovation process. So Anne and Jasper have talked about how to understand the trends and generate ideas. Right now we have the ideas, but how to create those products that actually can solve the challenges that we have identified. And for that we have defined a so-called business sprint, which can get you closer towards realizing and creating that product. So for any challenge that you have, you always start with certain assumptions, and those assumptions can make it a successful product or a business case. But we're always stand behind the fact that these assumptions have to be validated and have to be confirmed by your potential target group, potential market stakeholders, and so on. And taking the risk of just developing and putting it on the market is quite risky, because you sort of push a lot of energy and resources into that, and getting a failed concept is not something that we all want. So that's why there are certain methodologies that we're using internally for our own startups and ideas, but also for our clients, in order how to minimize the risk and at the same time have meaningful results. It gets to the basic of you need to test your idea. You need to be sure that you're getting close to that idea that can be confirmed. And you need the confirmation from your potential users, potential clients, those that will use that form of figure it out a solution on how to solve the texting while driving problem. Actually, nowadays 1 in 4 car accidents is generated by this distracted driving, which is caused by using the phone when driving. And we started to think about how can we create a solution which is not in line with what the market already has. And the market has solutions that can block the phone calls, auto-reply to your messages, and somehow go into the principle of restricting and punishing the user. That's why we took a different approach of rewarding good behavior, meaning rewarding those drivers which are not touching their phone when driving. Of course, it's a simple concept, but the safest way for us to validate it was to go through all the steps and to make sure that we have the right confirmation and feedback from the potential users. And for that, we have done the following activities, which they get into under one umbrella called the business sprint. A business sprint for us is a defined period of 4 weeks where we have 4 workshops, which can be done, which we have done internally, but we also can do with our clients. And the idea is that at the end of those workshops, we have a minimum viable product, or MVP. Probably already know, you're familiar with this term, which is actually a prototype in different forms. It could be just a visual prototype or a working prototype, that the main goal is to have the feedback from the potential users. We always start with these four activities: defining the product vision, story mapping how that product should look like. In the third week, we're prototyping, and I'll show you how the prototypes look like. And at the end of the fourth week, we should be we should have a tangible result that can go into the market, that can go into a survey, or it can go into a test group, and to get the first reaction of your potential users. So, product vision. How do we make sure that we have a product vision? So, from the idea, we're able to map it and to visualize it by identifying the target group, identifying their needs, and trying to see what kind of solutions, what kind of actions need to be included in the product in order to solve those needs in the most meaningful way. And for that, we have this very easy and tangible exercise called a product vision, which in the end it's a canvas where we are mapping all these items. After we have finalized this product vision, we're going towards the story mapping. So for each part of the items that we have identified in the product vision, we're splitting down into those features, those functionalities, those interactions that need to be taken care of in that product. And of course, they are prioritized according to how fast and how complete they can solve that need. And at the end of this story mapping process, we are drawing some lines where we are identifying what has to be, what has high priority and must be included in the first prototype, and what can be added later on. And as you can see, we have these kind of lines and dot lines which are helping us to visualize and to prioritize the most important things. After this story mapping, we're going towards the third and one of the most important for the development team, the product backlog, which is a list of the functionalities and stories translated towards the team that will develop. It can be the team, can be the software development team, it can be the design team that can create a certain visual interface of that idea. And again, it's very important to prioritize according to what has been decided in the story mapping part. And now the most important thing, we're getting to have two ways of prototyping. It's just a simple wireframes and sketches that show a certain flow of the idea and of the prototype, or it can go toward having a very rich in details close to the end result, which can better feedback and can validate better the whole idea. These 4 steps we have included also for SafeDrive, where we have started up with an idea of rewarding drivers which are not texting while driving. From that, we have made the story mapping where we have decided what are the most important features to start and to present as initial, let's say, initial version of the product towards the customers, towards the drivers. Then we have, from that, we were able to define the product backlog, meaning those functionalities that had to be developed or had to be represented by the design team. And for us, at the end of this business sprint was a high fidelity prototype. It was a visual of how the app will work, and this was spread among a use base of potential drivers that were willing to try out our product. And we have captured their attention in via a landing page where they were subscribing, giving us their email addresses for us to send them this high fidelity prototype. After that, we have received all the feedback. We have iterated again, and then we were pretty sure that we have validated the prototype. We're pretty sure that we can go to the next realization. With this type of approach, you're confirming you're closer towards building something meaningful, building something that will not have a high risk of a failure. The business sprint for us is one of the most important parts of developing of getting from an idea. The business sprints are quite important because it gets from the idea towards the product in the most safest and meaningful way, because you are able to validate those assumptions that can help you, that can convince you to invest further the resources. It can convince other stakeholders to back up the project. At the same time, you're getting early feedback and insights about from those users and from those potential customers that in the end will be the one to support your product and to use the product. At the same time, it can create that scenario where you're stopping right away with the product because you don't have you haven't started on the right track. And the result of the business sprint, it's a prototype that can be further enhanced, and let's say it can get to the initial release of your product. This is what we're doing at Ixel Family. We're able to help you out with identifying the ideas, help you out to pick up those red spots that Jasper has presented you earlier. From that, we're able to realize it, and to in a 4 weeks workshops, we're able to show you a prototype that can go into the market and get initial validation, and hopefully with those kind of results, you're able to go to the final phase of realization and developing a product, an innovative product. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everybody. All right, we got some questions here. Jasper, I think the first ones are for you. Do you have them? Do you want me to read them out?
Please do.
All right, so the first one is relates to your part, of course. How this method to select and redefine ideas is similar to scenario techniques and other future studies technologies.
So one of the things that I would do is just to create different timelines, or like thinking lines, how you would be able to assess them. So typically you have them from practicability to, for example, to future thinking. So like what you can do today or tomorrow, and or whether it's an incremental process or more radical. But I always like to do as well, so how much does it challenge my status quo? So does it feel comfortable acting on this? Or does it really touch my nerves, or I don't understand what to do with it? To give you a practical example, so I see a lot of ideas in companies now happening around, for example, big data. And big data has been around for quite some time, so a lot of people feel familiar with that, the concept. So that's a pretty... it fits within most of the executives' minds to say, when you talk about, I have this idea on big data, a lot of your executives will say, oh, good idea. Let's do something like that. And the thought provocation would be in that, that you say, okay, let's do something like anti-big data, which is totally not the same. So probably executives will think something like, hey, why would you do something like that? So based upon that, so you can create a division of ideas, or at least scatter them around, for example, from craziness or awesomeness or thought-provoking to less thought-provoking. Then a rule of thumb would be that 80% of your ideas should be like within your own comfort zone, and that likely the 20% of them can be like strange and awesome and whatsoever. But you need to include them. And just to give you like two small case examples, once I created in my portfolio when I was still heading the venture unit of a bank, we created a concept for the sex bank, and we created the first wearable in the world. So So we had those two projects, and those were at that time, 2010, 2011, were pretty much strange, because the iPhone's just out, and as you can imagine, anything with sex is a bit thought-provoking. So executives, all the other projects, we had like 20 cool projects running on, they thought they were very, very normal. So I liked them a lot, because the other two were so crazy to them. So for them they said, okay, let's maybe do one or two of them, but especially all the other ones are nice and cool and funny. So based on the question, as such, I would always encourage people to create timelines, 80-20 rule, and then at least to select on how uneasy is this one for you. And it's a rule of thumb, so something that you can only envision yourself. And yeah. So I would suggest that people start to timeline those for themselves.
Right, great. So the second question is also for you, and it is how much the dynamic described by the second speaker, that's you, relates to the managerial ability to deal with entrepreneurial and inventive processes inside the organization. Let's say that MNCs are not the best places to act like an entrepreneur.
Well, I would, an entrepreneur is both, of course, somebody who does what he wants to do, and he's self-responsible for money, but mainly he's a free thinker. Okay, so what my suggestion is that at least entrepreneurs, of course, are free at heart. And when you want to act like an entrepreneur, you think free at heart, and you also want to create a practical business application into that. So I'm very much focused with my, for example, with my own team, to let them think like entrepreneurs. And of course it should not be only by, okay, I have this crazy idea, but I also want them to visualize it. So when you visualize it, that's the prototyping, or what we call internally also business printing. So then we create also the business case around it in a very quick and lean way. And we create different versions of the reality. And what I've noticed is that a lot of also corporates like that as well. That to visualize ideas early on in the process, and then for them to understand what you're talking about. Because a lot of ideas get not understood because people don't visualize it. And then it's very hard to realize so what you're actually doing. So for me, I would really challenge the assumption that entrepreneurship is not possible within corporates. I would say it's perfectly possible, but you have to also to talk the language of the corporate, so you have to make it concrete for them. And then it works perfectly well.